As their connection deepens, one question remains. Can a wrong number lead to the right forever? Vanessa Holt stared at her reflection in the bathroom mirror of her new apartment, 30 years old and starting over. The divorce papers had been signed just 3 weeks ago, ending 5 years of a marriage that had slowly drained the light from her eyes. "You can do this," she whispered to herself, applying a touch of lipstick. It was Friday night, and for the first time in months she was going out to dinner alone. By choice, her ex-husband David hadn't been a monster. He never raised his voice or his hand. His crime had been subtler. He had made her invisible. Forgotten. Birthdays. Blank stares when she spoke. Eyes that looked through her rather than at her. The slow erosion of being unseen had hollowed her out until one morning she couldn't recognize the woman in the mirror. The day she'd finally packed her bags, he'd barely looked up from his phone. "If that's what you want," was all he said. Now in her tiny rented apartment with second-hand furniture, Vanessa made herself a promise as she grabbed her purse. "I won't be forgotten again." The evening air was cool as she walked the 6 blocks to the Silver Spoon, an upscale restaurant she'd heard about from her new co-workers. It was tucked away on a quiet corner, with warm golden light spilling from its windows. The kind of place you took someone special. A hostess with a genuine smile greeted her. "Good evening. Do you have a reservation?" "No, just me tonight," Vanessa said, lifting her chin slightly. "Not a problem, we have a lovely table by the window." As Vanessa followed the hostess through the dimly lit restaurant, the soft music and murmur of conversation wrapped around her like a comfortable blanket. Crystal glasses caught the light from small candles on each table. It was elegant, without being intimidating. And then she saw it. The corner booth in the back. Her steps faltered. It was the same rich burgundy color, the same curved shape, just like the booth at Marino's, where David had proposed, where they'd celebrated every anniversary, where he'd stared at his phone through their last dinner together. "Is everything all right?" the hostess asked. Vanessa began, her hand clutching her purse strap. "Actually, I think I made a mistake." She was halfway turned to leave when a deep voice stopped her. "It doesn't have to stay his." Vanessa turned to see a tall man with dark hair and kind eyes watching her. He wore a tailored suit but no tie, and there was something both authoritative and gentle about his presence. "Excuse me?" she asked. He stepped forward. "I'm Aiden Cole. I own this place." He gestured toward the booth that had triggered her. "Whatever memory made you want to run just now, it doesn't have to keep that power. This can be a new place for you." Vanessa stared at him, caught between embarrassment and surprise. "How did you—" "I watch people," he said simply. "It's part of the job, and I recognized that look." He smiled slightly. "No one should have to abandon beautiful places because of painful memories. Let me help make new ones." There was no flirtation in his voice, just a quiet understanding that made Vanessa's defenses waver. "Melissa will seat you wherever you're comfortable," Aiden continued, nodding to the hostess. "And your first course is on the house." Before Vanessa could respond, he was called away by a waiter with a question. She found herself following Melissa to a small table near a stone fireplace instead of leaving. "Mr. Cole has an eye for people. Melissa designed this whole place himself. The kitchen, the dining room, everything." Vanessa glanced around with new appreciation. "It's beautiful. He'll be glad you think so. Enjoy your evening." Left alone, Vanessa wondered what she was doing. She hadn't come looking for kindness, especially not from a stranger. She just wanted a quiet dinner, a small step toward independence. A waiter appeared with a glass of champagne and a small plate of something that wasn't on the menu. "Compliments of Mr. Cole," he said. "Our chef's special appetizer, seared scallops with a citrus glaze." The food was exquisite. Halfway through her entree, a perfectly cooked salmon with roasted vegetables, Vanessa realized she was actually enjoying herself. The weight in her chest had lightened. Even the corner booth no longer seemed to loom in her awareness. As she finished a decadent chocolate dessert, also on the house, Aiden approached her table again. "Better memories?" he asked. Vanessa smiled. Genuinely this time. "Much better, thank you. But you didn't need to comp so much of my meal." Consider it an investment in a future regular customer. He hesitated, then added, I hope you'll come back. There was something in his eyes, not pity, which would have sent her running, but a quiet recognition, like he knew what it meant to rebuild. I might, she said. Back in her apartment that night, Vanessa felt something she hadn't in months, a small spark of curiosity about another person. Who was Aidan Cole, and why had he gone out of his way for a stranger? The following Monday, Vanessa threw herself into her new job at Henderson Marketing. Her divorce had forced her to return to the workforce after years of trying to be the perfect housewife for a man who barely noticed. Now she was an administrative assistant, starting at the bottom again at 30. Vanessa, can you get these reports organized for the meeting? Linda, her supervisor, asked. Already done, Vanessa replied. I also added tabs for quick reference. Linda looked impressed. You're catching on quick. By Friday, Vanessa had settled into a routine. Wake up, go to work, come home to her small apartment. It wasn't exciting, but it was hers. No one ignoring her, no one making her feel small. As she was leaving work, her phone buzzed with a text. From her friend Rachel. Dinner tonight, girls' night out? Vanessa started to type maybe next week, but stopped herself. This was exactly what the new Vanessa was supposed to do. Say yes to life. Where and when? She texted back. Rachel's response made her breath catch. The silver spoon at 7. I've been dying to try it. Vanessa hesitated. Going back so soon seemed like tempting fate. But the memory of that perfect meal, of Aidan Cole's quiet kindness, tugged at her. See you there, she typed. The restaurant was busier on a Friday night. Rachel was already waiting when Vanessa arrived, looking glamorous as always in a sleek black dress. This place is gorgeous, Rachel gushed as they were seated, and apparently impossible to get into usually. My date from last week knew someone who knew someone. Vanessa smiled. It's worth the wait. So how's the new job? The new place? Rachel asked once they'd ordered. I've been worried about you. I'm getting there, Vanessa said honestly. Some days are harder than others. Has David tried to contact you? Vanessa shook her head. Not once. I'm not sure he's even noticed I'm gone. She tried to make it sound like a joke, but the pain still slipped through. Rachel reached across the table and squeezed her hand. His loss, seriously. Vanessa was about to respond when she noticed Aidan moving through the restaurant, stopping to chat with customers. He wore a charcoal grey suit tonight, and his presence seemed to elevate the entire room. Who are you staring at? Rachel asked, turning to follow Vanessa's gaze. The owner, Vanessa said, quickly looking away. I came here last week and he was very kind. Rachel's eyes widened. The hot guy in the grey suit? Did you talk to him? It wasn't like that, Vanessa protested. He just... But she wasn't sure how to explain what had happened without sounding pathetic. Their food arrived, saving her from finishing the thought. Unlike her first visit, no special dishes appeared. No owner stopped by their table. Aidan was busy with a large party in the private dining room. Vanessa told herself she wasn't disappointed. As they were finishing their meal, Rachel excused herself to the restroom. Vanessa was checking her phone when a waiter appeared with 2 desserts. We didn't order these, she began. Mr. Cole thought you and your friend might enjoy our new dessert. It's not on the menu yet. Vanessa looked up and met Aidan's eyes across the room. He gave her a small nod before returning to his conversation. Rachel returned and clapped her hands in delight at the surprise dessert, a delicate lemon tart with fresh berries. How did this happen? The owner, Vanessa admitted. He sent something special last time too. Rachel wiggled her eyebrows suggestively. Maybe he likes you. Or maybe he's just good at customer service, Vanessa countered, but she felt a warmth in her cheeks that had nothing to do with the restaurant's temperature. When the check came, Vanessa insisted on paying her share despite Rachel's protests that her admirer might take care of it. There was a business card tucked with the receipt, with a handwritten note on the back. New memories are worth celebrating. Aidan. Vanessa slipped the card into her purse before Rachel could see it. Outside, as they waited for their ride shares, Rachel hugged her tightly. It's good to see you smiling again, Van. Really smiling. It feels good, Vanessa admitted. Like I'm finally waking up. The next week passed in a blur of work and apartment hunting. Vanessa's sublet was only temporary, and she needed to find something more permanent but still affordable on her modest salary. By Wednesday, she was stressed and exhausted. 3 apartment viewings, all disappointing. A demanding new project, that work, and a text from her mother asking if she'd thought about reconciling with David. Vanessa found herself walking toward the Silver Spoon without consciously deciding to go there. It was early, barely 6, and she didn't have a reservation. But something pulled her toward the warm lights and the promise of a moment's peace. The hostess, different from last time, looked apologetic. "I'm sorry, we're fully booked tonight." "That's okay, I understand," Vanessa said, trying to hide her disappointment. "Vanessa?" She turned to see Aidan emerging from his office near the entrance. Today he wore a white button-down with the sleeves rolled up, revealing strong forearms. "Hi," she said, suddenly feeling awkward. "I was just leaving. You're full tonight." "Nonsense," he said. "We always keep the chef's table available for special circumstances." He turned to the hostess. "Sarah, please seat Ms. Holt at the kitchen table." The hostess looked surprised but nodded. "You really don't have to—" Vanessa began. "I know," Aidan said with a small smile, "but you look like you've had a rough day, and our chef is making his famous risotto tonight. It would be a shame for you to miss it." The chef's table turned out to be a small, intimate table set within a windowed alcove overlooking the kitchen. Vanessa could watch the chefs work their magic while enjoying complete privacy. "This is amazing," she said as Aidan himself pulled out her chair. "It's my favorite spot in the restaurant," he admitted. "I designed it so I could watch the kitchen in action without getting in the way." "You must be very hands-on with your business," Vanessa observed. Something flickered in his eyes. "This place is more than a business to me." Before she could ask what he meant, the chef himself approached, beaming at Aidan, before turning to Vanessa. "So you're the special guest. I'm Marco. I hope you're hungry, because I'm sending out my best dishes tonight." What followed was the most extraordinary meal of Vanessa's life. Small plates of perfectly executed food appeared one after another, each with Marco's enthusiastic explanation. Aidan disappeared to manage the busy restaurant, but returned between courses to check on her. During dessert, a warm apple tart with homemade ice cream, he finally sat down across from her. "Better day now?" he asked. "Much," she admitted. "Thank you for this. But I have to ask, why? You don't know me." Aidan was quiet for a moment, his fingers tracing the pattern on the tablecloth. "When you walked in that first night, I recognized something in you, a kind of determination mixed with hurt. I've seen that look in the mirror." The vulnerability in his admission caught her off guard. "Plus," he continued with a small smile, "you actually noticed the food. So many people come here and never really taste what they're eating. They're too busy taking pictures or impressing their dates. The food is impossible not to notice," Vanessa said honestly. "It's incredible." "Marco will be thrilled to hear that." Aidan hesitated. "Would it be too forward to ask what brought you here tonight? You seemed troubled when you arrived." Normally, Vanessa would have deflected such a personal question, but something about Aidan's directness, his quiet attention, made her want to be honest. "Apartment hunting," she sighed. "I'm newly divorced, staying in a temporary sublet, and everything in my price range is either a closet or in danger of collapsing." "Ah," Aidan nodded. "New beginnings are rarely smooth." "Spoken like someone who knows," Vanessa observed. Their eyes met, and for a moment something electric passed between them. Then Aidan's phone buzzed, breaking the spell. "Duty calls," he said, standing. "Your dinner is on the house." "No," Vanessa interrupted firmly. "I appreciate the special table, but I'm paying for my meal." Aidan studied her, then nodded with what looked like respect. "As you wish, but at least let me help with your apartment search. I know several property managers in the area. I couldn't impose—" "It's not an imposition, it's what neighbors do." "We're neighbors, in a manner of speaking. My apartment is above the restaurant." As Vanessa left that night, she felt lighter than she had in months. It wasn't just the extraordinary food or the special treatment. It was the way Aidan had listened, really listened when she spoke. After years of David's indifference, Being truly seen by someone felt like coming up for air after nearly drowning. Outside, the night was clear and cool. Vanessa looked up at the windows above the restaurant, wondering which one was Aiden's. As if summoned by her thoughts, a light came on in the corner apartment. A silhouette appeared briefly, Aiden's broad shoulders unmistakable even from a distance. For the first time since her divorce, Vanessa felt a flutter of something that might have been hope, or something even more dangerous. 2 weeks later, Vanessa signed the lease on her new apartment. It was a charming one-bedroom in an old brownstone, with bay windows and wooden floors that creaked in just the right way. The rent was surprisingly reasonable. "I can't believe you found this place," she told Aiden, as they stood in the empty living room. True to his word, he had connected her with a property manager who owed him a favor. "Marge is an old friend," Aiden said, running his hand along the vintage mantelpiece. "She likes renting to people who will appreciate these older buildings." Sunlight streamed through the windows, warming the space. Vanessa could already picture where her few pieces of furniture would go, a fresh start in a place that felt like it had stories to tell. "Thank you," she said, turning to face him, "for everything." Aiden shook his head. "I just made a phone call. You did the hard part." Over the past 2 weeks, they had fallen into an unexpected routine. Vanessa would stop by the Silver Spoon after work, sitting at the small bar with a glass of wine while Aiden moved between the kitchen, the dining room and his office. Sometimes they barely spoke. Other times, when the restaurant was quieter, they would talk for hours. She had learned he was 32, had grown up in a small town upstate, and had worked his way through culinary school before shifting to restaurant management. He was quiet but not shy, thoughtful but quick to laugh. What he hadn't shared was anything deeply personal, no mention of past relationships or why he seemed to understand her pain so well. "So when do you move in?" he asked, bringing her thoughts back to the present. "This weekend. I don't have much to bring, so it shouldn't take long. Need any help?" The offer was casual, but his eyes were intent. Vanessa hesitated. Their friendship, if that's what it was, had developed within the safe confines of his restaurant. Taking it outside those walls felt like crossing a line. "I should be fine," she said finally, "but maybe you could recommend a good takeout place for when I'm surrounded by boxes." Was that disappointment that flashed across his face? But he smiled and said, "Better idea. I'll send Marco with a proper dinner. No one should eat bad pizza on moving day." Saturday morning arrived with sunshine and the promise of new beginnings. Vanessa's friend Rachel helped her pack the last of her things from the sublet and load them into a small rented truck. "So is restaurant guy coming to help?" Rachel asked, taping up a box labeled kitchen. "His name is Aiden." "And no," Vanessa replied. "I didn't want to impose." Rachel rolled her eyes. "The man found you an apartment and sends special desserts. I think he'd be devastated if you didn't impose a little." "It's not like that," Vanessa insisted, though she wasn't entirely sure what it was. "He's just being kind." "Uh-huh. And I'm just being nosy because I care about you." Rachel hefted a box. "After what David put you through, you deserve someone who actually sees you." The words hit Vanessa harder than she expected. Being seen. That's exactly what Aiden did, from that very first night. He saw her pain, her determination, her enjoyment of good food. After years of David looking through her, Aiden's attention felt both wonderful and terrifying. By late afternoon, they had moved everything into the new apartment. Vanessa's muscles ached and her hair was falling out of its ponytail, but a sense of accomplishment filled her. Her own place, her own life. Rachel had just left when there was a knock at the door. Vanessa opened it to find a young man in chef's whites holding several large bags. "Ms. Holt, I'm Tony from the Silver Spoon. Chef Marco sent dinner." "Oh, come in, please." Vanessa stepped back, suddenly aware of how disheveled she must look. Tony efficiently unpacked the bags on her small dining table, revealing containers of delicious-smelling food, a bottle of wine, and even proper plates and silverware. "Chef said to tell you the chicken is best warm, but everything else can wait. And Mr. Cole said to give you this." He handed her a small envelope before heading to the door. "Enjoy." Alone again, Vanessa opened the envelope. Inside was a simple card with Aiden's bold handwriting. Every new home needs a first good meal to make it yours. Congratulations on your fresh start. Vanessa felt a warmth that had nothing to do with the steaming containers of food. She opened the wine and poured herself a glass, then sent Aidan a text with a picture of the spread. Your chef has outdone himself. Thank you. His response came quickly. Enjoy. If you need anything else for the apartment, just say the word. She hesitated, then typed, Actually, I could use some company if you're not too busy. The 3 dots appeared, disappeared, then appeared again. Finally, give me 30 minutes. Half an hour later, another knock. Vanessa had used the time to change into clean jeans and a soft blue sweater, and to run a brush through her hair. She opened the door to find Aidan holding a small potted plant, with delicate white flowers. Housewarming gift, he said, handing it to her. Peace lily. Hard to kill even for people who can't keep plants alive. How did you know I'm terrible with plants? She asked, taking it. He shrugged with a smile. Lucky guess. Over dinner, they talked easily about the neighborhood, the history of the building, and Vanessa's plans for the apartment. The food was incredible. Roast chicken with herbs, creamy risotto, roasted vegetables, and a chocolate cake that melted in her mouth. I should put some of this away, Vanessa said, looking at the remaining food. I'll be eating leftovers for days. Marco always overdoes it, Aidan said with a fond smile. He says good food should never be portioned too small. As they cleaned up together, Vanessa noticed Aidan looking at the few personal items she'd unpacked. A small collection of books, a framed photo of her parents, an antique clock that had belonged to her grandmother. Not much to show for 30 years, she said self-consciously. Sometimes starting with less means you're more careful about what you add, Aidan replied. There was something in his tone that made her look at him more closely. You sound like you know from experience. He nodded slowly. I do. For the first time, Vanessa felt like he might be ready to share something of himself. They moved to the living room where she'd set up her couch facing the bay windows. The street below was quiet, lamps glowing in the early evening. I didn't always own the silver spoon, Aidan began, looking out at the view rather than at her. It was originally called Claire's. Claire's, Vanessa repeated, named after my wife. The word hung in the air between them. Wife, not girlfriend, not ex, wife. She died, Aidan continued, his voice steady but with an undercurrent of old pain. 4 years ago. Cancer. I'm so sorry, Vanessa whispered, her heart constricting. Claire was a chef. Brilliant, creative. Opening her own restaurant was her dream. We put everything we had into that place. He smiled slightly at the memory. She designed the original kitchen, created every recipe. I handled the business side. Vanessa remained silent, giving him space to continue. When she got sick, she kept working as long as she could. Said the kitchen was her happy place. His jaw tightened. By the end, she couldn't even eat her own food. He took a deep breath. After she died, I couldn't bear to go back. Closed the place for 6 months. But letting it die too felt wrong. So I reopened, changed the name, redesigned parts of it, kept her vision but made it something I could walk into every day without breaking. Now Vanessa understood. The care he put into the restaurant, the way he watched people enjoying their meals, his kindness to her when he saw her pain. That's why you said it was more than a business to you, she said softly. He nodded, finally turning to look at her. When you came in that first night looking like you wanted to run, I recognized it. That feeling when a place that should bring joy suddenly hurts instead. Because of your memories of Claire, Vanessa said. Yes, and because I saw you fighting, not to let painful memories win. He smiled slightly. It was brave. Vanessa thought about the courage it must have taken for him to keep the restaurant going, to transform his grief into something that brought others joy. I think you're the brave one, she said. Their eyes met, and something shifted between them. A recognition, a possibility. It's getting late, Aidan said finally, standing. You must be exhausted from moving. At the door, he turned to her. Thank you for listening. Thank you for telling me, she replied. After he left, Vanessa stood at the window watching his figure move down the street. The restaurant. His late wife. Suddenly, everything made more sense. His understanding, his distance. the way he poured himself into creating perfect experiences for others. She wasn't the only one haunted by a past that still had power. Monday. Morning at work, Vanessa found herself distracted. Images of Aidan kept appearing in her mind, his hands cradling a wine glass, his eyes when he spoke of Claire, the careful way he had set the peace lily on her windowsill. Earth to Vanessa, Linda said, waving a hand in front of her face. The Wilson file? Sorry, Vanessa said, quickly retrieving the folder. Late night moving. How's the new place? Linda asked. Wonderful, it already feels like home. By midweek, Vanessa realized she hadn't been to the Silver Spoon since before moving day. Part of her wondered if knowing about Claire had changed. Things between her and Aidan. Had she pushed him to share too much too soon? Thursday evening she decided to stop by. The restaurant was busy, the bar full. She didn't see Aidan anywhere. Ms. Holt, Marco greeted her warmly from the kitchen doorway. No Mr. Cole tonight, his mother is in town. Oh, Vanessa said, trying to hide her disappointment. I just stopped by to say hello. I should get going. Nonsense. You will have dinner. I have a new pasta dish you must try. Before she could protest, Marco was leading her to a small table and personally bringing out a parade of dishes. The food was delicious as always, but without Aidan's presence the restaurant felt different. As she was finishing her meal, her phone buzzed with a text from him. Marco says you're at the restaurant. Sorry I missed you. Mother duties. How about brunch on Sunday? I know a place. Vanessa smiled as she typed back. Not the Silver Spoon. Even I eat elsewhere occasionally. 11 a.m. I'll pick you up. It's a date, she replied, then immediately panicked. Was it a date or just brunch between friends? Before she could clarify, he sent back a simple, looking forward to it. Sunday morning was bright and clear. Vanessa changed outfits 3 times, before settling on a simple dress with a light cardigan. Not too formal, not too casual. Perfect for brunch that may or may not be a date. At exactly 11, her doorbell rang. Aidan stood there in dark jeans and a light blue button-down shirt that made his eyes look even more intensely blue. Ready? He asked with a smile. The place turned out to be a small cafe in the West Village with a line out the door, but the host greeted Aidan by name and immediately led them to a sunny table on the patio. Another restaurant owner, you know? Vanessa asked as they sat down. Carlos was my roommate in culinary school, Aidan explained. He makes the best eggs Benedict in the city. They ordered coffee and food, falling into easy conversation. Aidan told her about his mother's visit. She inspected the kitchen and rearranged my spice rack, and asked about her first week in the new apartment. It felt natural, comfortable, until Vanessa noticed a woman at a nearby table staring at them, with undisguised interest. I think we're being watched, she murmured to Aidan. He glanced over and immediately groaned. That's Gloria Chen, restaurant critic for the City Times. She reviewed the Silver Spoon last year. Favorably, I hope. Very. But she's also a terrible gossip, he sighed. She's probably already texting her editor about the reclusive owner of the Silver Spoon on a date. There it was. The word date. Vanessa felt her cheeks warm. Is that what this is? She asked, trying to keep her tone light. A date? Aidan looked at her directly, all humor gone from his face. I'd like it to be, if that's okay with you. The simplicity of his answer, the honesty in his eyes made Vanessa's heart race. It had been so long since she'd felt this kind of nervous excitement. I'd like that too, she admitted. His smile was worth any amount of gossip from restaurant critics. After brunch, they walked through the neighborhood, stopping at a small bookstore where Aidan insisted on buying her a cookbook he loved, then a gourmet shop where they sampled cheeses and chocolates. It was easy being with him, no pressure to impress or perform, just 2 people enjoying each other's company. By late afternoon, they had made their way back to her apartment. At her door, an awkward moment. Was this the end of their date? The beginning of something more. Would you like to come in? She asked. I could make coffee. I'd like that, he said. Inside, as Vanessa busied herself with the coffee maker, Aidan wandered to the window where the peace lily sat in the sunlight, already looking settled in its new home. It suits the place, he said. It does, she agreed. bringing 2 mugs to the small table. Like it belongs here. Their eyes met over the steaming coffee, and Vanessa felt a tremor of anticipation. But instead of moving closer, Aidan took a step back. "I should be honest with you," he said. "I haven't done this in a long time. Dating, being with someone." "Neither have I," she admitted, "not counting my disaster of a marriage." "Claire was my first love," he continued, his voice quiet. "We met in college. I never had to figure out how to do this. Meet someone new, build something from nothing." "Are you saying you don't want to?" Vanessa asked, her heart sinking. "No," he said quickly. "I'm saying I want to do it right, slowly." He moved closer, taking her hand. "You're just starting over, Vanessa. I don't want to rush you or myself." The care in his words, the gentleness of his touch on her hand nearly undid her. After David's indifference, Aidan's consideration was almost overwhelming. "Slowly sounds perfect," she whispered. He brought her hand to his lips, kissing it softly. "Then we have all the time in the world." As he left, promising to call her the next day, Vanessa leaned against her closed door, a smile spreading across her face. For the first time in years, she felt truly alive, seen, valued, but a small voice in the back of her mind whispered a warning. Aidan's heart still held a place for Claire. Would there ever be room for someone new? The following Saturday, Vanessa invited Rachel over to see the new apartment. "This place is amazing," Rachel exclaimed, examining the vintage details. "And that view! How did you find it?" "Aidan connected me with the property manager," Vanessa explained, pouring wine for them both. Rachel raised an eyebrow. "Aidan, huh? And how are things progressing with the handsome restaurant owner?" Vanessa couldn't help the smile that spread across her face. "We had brunch last Sunday, an official date. Finally." Rachel clinked glasses with her. "Details, please." Vanessa told her about the day, the easy conversation, the promise to take things slowly. What she didn't mention was Claire. Somehow sharing Aidan's loss felt too private, too intimate. "He sounds perfect," Rachel sighed. "Unlike the parade of losers I've been dating." They were laughing over Rachel's latest dating disaster when Vanessa's phone chimed with a text from Aidan. "Dinner at my place tomorrow? I'll cook." "Is that him?" Rachel asked, noting Vanessa's sudden smile. "He's invited me to dinner at his apartment. Tomorrow." Rachel wiggled her eyebrows suggestively. "So much for taking it slow." "It's just dinner," Vanessa protested. But her pulse had quickened at the thought of seeing his home, the private space above the restaurant where he lived alone with his memories. After Rachel left, Vanessa stood at her window, looking out at the city lights. Tomorrow she would step further into Aidan's world, not the public space of his restaurant but his home, the place where he had perhaps once lived with Claire. The thought sent a mix of emotions through her, excitement at growing closer to Guy. Him, fear of competing with a ghost, and underneath it all a quiet determination. "I won't be forgotten again," she had promised herself the day she left David. Now, as she prepared to open her heart to someone new, she amended that promise. "I won't be a replacement either." Sunday evening, Vanessa stood outside the private entrance to Aidan's apartment, a bottle of wine in hand. She had changed outfits 3 times before settling on a simple blue dress that Rachel always said brought out her eyes. Her hair fell in soft waves around her shoulders, and she wore just enough makeup to feel confident but not overdone. Taking a deep breath, she pressed the buzzer. Moments later, Aidan opened the door. He wore dark jeans and a charcoal sweater pushed up at the sleeves, revealing his forearms. The casual look suited him perfectly. "Right on time," he said with a warm smile, stepping back to let her in. Vanessa had imagined many versions of Aidan's apartment, but the reality surprised her. It was open and airy, with high ceilings and large windows overlooking the street. The furniture was modern but comfortable. A large sectional sofa, bookshelves filled with cookbooks and novels, a dining table set near the kitchen. What struck her most was how lived in it felt. Not a showpiece, but a home. "This is lovely," she said, handing him the wine. "Thank you for this and for coming." He led her toward the kitchen area, where delicious smells were already filling the air. "I hope you like Italian. It's my comfort food." The kitchen was a chef's dream. Professional-grade appliances, a large island with bar stools and enough counter space to prepare a feast. Pots simmered on the stove and a cutting board held fresh herbs waiting to be used. "Can I help with anything?" Vanessa asked. "You can keep me company while I finish up," Aiden said, opening the wine. "Marco would be horrified if he knew I was cooking for you instead of letting him send over something." "Your secret is safe with me," she promised, accepting a glass, "though now I'm curious if you can live up to the silver spoon's standards." He laughed. "Lower your expectations now. I'm good, but I'm no Marco." As Aiden moved around the kitchen with easy confidence, Vanessa noticed a framed photo on a shelf. A woman with bright eyes and a wide smile, her arm around a younger Aiden. Both wearing chef's whites, Claire.Aiden followed her gaze. "That was the day we signed the lease on the restaurant space. Happiest day of her life." "She was beautiful," Vanessa said softly. "She was." He stirred a pot thoughtfully. "Claire would have liked you. She always said I was too serious. Needed someone to make me laugh." The simple way he connected his past to his present touched Vanessa deeply. He wasn't hiding Claire away or pretending those years hadn't existed. But he also wasn't living in a shrine to his late wife. He was finding his way forward. Dinner was served at the table by the window, handmade pasta with a rich tomato sauce, garlic bread, and a salad with fresh greens. It was simple but perfect. "This is amazing," Vanessa said after her first bite. "Marco might have competition after all." "Basic skills," Aiden demurred. "My mother would disown me if I couldn't make a decent pasta sauce." "Tell me about your family," Vanessa prompted, realizing how little she knew about his background. Aiden described growing up in a small town upstate, the only son of Italian-American parents who owned a local pizzeria. "Food was everything in our house. Love, comfort, discipline. It all happened around the dinner table." "That sounds wonderful," Vanessa said, thinking of her own childhood with busy, professional parents, where meals were often hurried affairs or eaten separately. "What about your family?" he asked. "Not much to tell. My parents divorced when I was 12, both remarried. I see them on holidays, but we're not especially close." She shrugged. "Maybe that's why I tried so hard to make my own marriage work, even when it was clearly falling apart." "How long were you and David together?" 7 years, married for 5. Vanessa took a sip of wine. "The sad part is it wasn't always bad. In the beginning he made me feel special, like I was the most interesting person he'd ever met." She gave a bitter laugh. "Then gradually I became wallpaper to him. Present, but not seen. His loss," Aiden said simply. After dinner they moved to the couch with coffee and a dessert Aiden had prepared. Warm apple crisp with vanilla ice cream. The city lights twinkled outside as they talked about books they loved, places they wanted to travel, and their favorite movies. It was easy being with him. No pressure to impress or be someone she wasn't. For the first time since her divorce, maybe longer, Vanessa felt herself truly relaxing with another person. "I should probably go," she said reluctantly, noticing it was nearly midnight. "Early meeting tomorrow." Aiden walked her to the door. In the small entryway they stood close, the air between them charged with possibility. "Thank you for dinner," she said, her voice softer than she intended. "Thank you for coming," he replied, his eyes on hers. When he leaned in, she met him halfway. The kiss was gentle at first, a question more than a demand. Then, as she stepped closer, it deepened, his hands moving to her waist, hers to his shoulders. They broke apart, both a little breathless. "I've been wanting to do that since brunch," Aiden admitted. "I've been wanting you to," Vanessa replied with a smile. He kissed her once more, quickly at her door. "I'll call you tomorrow." "You'd better," she said. Walking to the subway, Vanessa felt lighter than air. The night had been perfect. The food, the conversation, the kiss. For the first time in years, she felt the spark of something real, something that could grow into more. At work the next morning, Vanessa couldn't stop smiling. As Vanessa hummed while filing reports, "Just feeling good about life," Vanessa replied. By lunchtime, Aiden had texted, "Still thinking about last night. Dinner at your place Friday?" "I'll bring the food." They fell into a comfortable rhythm over the next few weeks. Dinners at her apartment or his, walks through the city on Sunday afternoons, Quiet evenings watching old movies on his couch, her head on his shoulder, his arm around her. Sometimes Vanessa would stop by the Silver Spoon after work, sitting at the bar with a glass of wine, watching Aidan in his element, talking with customers, conferring with Marco, managing the controlled chaos of a busy restaurant. He always made time to join her, even if just for a few minutes between tasks. One evening in early May, about 2 months after their first kiss, Vanessa arrived at the restaurant to find an unfamiliar woman sitting at the bar, elegantly dressed, with perfectly styled blonde hair. "Is this seat taken?" Vanessa asked, gesturing to the empty stool beside her. The woman looked up with cool assessment. "Help yourself." As Vanessa settled in, the bartender placed her usual glass of Pinot Noir in front of her with a smile. "Mr. Cole said he'll be out in a few minutes." "Thank you, Paul." The blonde woman turned to her with new interest. "You know Aidan?" "Yes," Vanessa said simply, not sure how much to share with a stranger. "I'm Elise Rothman," the woman said, extending a manicured hand. "Old friend of the family, Vanessa Holt." "Ah, so you're Vanessa." Elise's smile didn't quite reach her eyes. "I've heard about you." Before Vanessa could ask what exactly she'd heard, Aidan appeared from the kitchen, his face lighting up when he saw Vanessa. The smile faltered slightly when he noticed Elise. "I see you two have met," he said, coming to stand between them. "Just introducing ourselves," Elise said smoothly. "I was telling your chef about the wine pairing event next month. You're still planning to participate, right?" "Of course," Aidan said. "The Silver Spoon has been part of the charity auction since Claire started it." At the mention of Claire, Elise's expression softened. She would be pleased the tradition continues. No one was more passionate about the children's hospital than Claire. Vanessa felt a twinge of discomfort at the familiar way Elise spoke of Claire, the implied history between them all. "Vanessa," Aidan said, turning to her with a warm smile, "would you like to join me for the wine event? It's for a good cause, and the food is always incredible." "I'd love to," she said, feeling Elise's sharp gaze on her. "Wonderful," Elise said with that same, not quite warm smile. Claire always said, "The Silver Spoon needed a woman's touch." It's good to see Aidan moving forward. There was something in the way she emphasized moving forward that made Vanessa bristle. After Elise left, Aidan joined Vanessa at the bar. "Sorry about that. Elise can be intense. She seemed very familiar with you, and with Claire." Aidan sighed. Elise was Claire's best friend since college. They started the charity wine auction together. She's had a hard time with changes. "Like you dating someone new?" Vanessa asked directly. "Yes," he admitted, though she'd never say it outright. "Elise thinks she's protecting Claire's memory." "And what do you think?" Aidan took her hand, his eyes steady on hers. "I think Claire would want me to be happy." "And you make me happy, Vanessa." The simple declaration melted away her unease. That night, when he walked her home, their goodbye kiss at her door led to another and another, until Vanessa whispered, "Stay." And he did. The charity wine auction was held at an upscale hotel downtown. Vanessa wore a midnight blue dress she'd splurged on for the occasion, her hair swept up in an elegant twist. Aidan, handsome in a dark suit, kept his hand at the small of her back as they entered the glittering ballroom. "Nervous?" he asked, noticing her tension. "A little," she admitted. "This is your world, not mine. Just be yourself," he said, squeezing her hand. "That's who I want beside me." The evening was a whirlwind of introductions. Restaurant owners, chefs, wine distributors, and socialites who all seemed to know Aidan, and by extension had known Claire. Many looked at Vanessa with undisguised curiosity. "So you're the new woman in Aidan's life," said an older man who introduced himself as a restaurant critic. Brave shoes to fill. Before Vanessa could respond, Elise appeared, elegant in a red gown. "James, stop making the poor girl uncomfortable." She turned to Vanessa with a tight smile. No, Vanessa kept her composure. "I wouldn't want to be. Claire was clearly special to many people here, especially to Aidan." "I respect that." Elise's eyebrows rose slightly, as if surprised by the direct response. "Well said. Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to check on the auction items." As the evening progressed, Vanessa felt increasingly out of place. Conversations swirled around industry gossip and memories she wasn't part of. Several times she heard Claire's name mentioned, always with reverence. Claire would have loved this year's theme. Remember when Claire convinced that vineyard to donate their reserve bottles? Claire always said the key to a successful auction was personal connection. Each mention was like a small reminder. You are the newcomer. You don't belong here. Aidan did his best to include her, introducing her proudly, keeping her close. But she could see the pull of his obligations, greeting donors, checking on the Silver Spoon's auction offering, speaking with people who'd known him and Claire for years. I'm going to get some air, she told him during a brief moment alone. Don't worry about me. She found a quiet balcony overlooking the city. The night air was cool against her skin, a relief after the crowded ballroom. It can be overwhelming, can't it? Vanessa turned to find an older woman joining her, elegant in a simple black dress with a pearl necklace. The auction? Yes, a bit, Vanessa admitted. I'm Margaret Cole, the woman said. Aidan's mother. Oh, Vanessa straightened. It's lovely. To meet you, Mrs. Cole. Please call me Margaret. She came to stand beside Vanessa at the railing. Aidan has told me a lot about you. All good, I hope, Vanessa said nervously. Margaret smiled. Very good. He says you make him laugh. That's no small thing. They stood in companionable silence for a moment, looking out at the city lights. This event was very important to Claire, Margaret said finally. Sometimes I think we all hold on to it so tightly because it helps us feel she's still here. I understand, Vanessa said softly. Do you? Margaret turned to look at her directly. It's not easy, being with someone who carries that kind of loss, especially when so many people around him are determined to preserve it. Like Elise, Vanessa ventured. Margaret chuckled. Elise means well in her way. She loved Claire like a sister. But she forgets that moving forward isn't the same as forgetting. I would never want Aidan to forget Claire, Vanessa said earnestly. She was a huge part of his life. The restaurant, this charity work, they're her legacy. And his, Margaret corrected gently. My son rebuilt his life after losing her. That took courage. She touched Vanessa's arm. It also takes courage to love someone who's known that kind of loss. Before Vanessa could respond, Aidan appeared at the balcony door. There you are, I've been looking everywhere. He came to join them, looking between the two women curiously. Should I be worried? Your mother was just giving me some perspective, Vanessa said with a small smile. All good things, Margaret assured him, patting his cheek affectionately. Now I believe they're about to announce the auction winners. Shall we? As they returned to the ballroom, Aidan took Vanessa's hand, squeezing it gently. You okay? I know this is a lot. I'm fine, she said, and meant it. Margaret's words had steadied her. This wasn't about competing with a ghost or trying to replace someone irreplaceable. It was about building something new alongside the memories, not in spite of them. The rest of the evening passed more comfortably. The Silver Spoon's offering, a private dinner for 6 with a special menu created by Marco, fetched one of the highest bids of the night. Aidan beamed with pride as the MC announced the total raised for the Children's Hospital, over $200,000. Claire would be proud, Elise said, joining them as the crowd began to disperse. Yes, she would, Aidan agreed, his arm around Vanessa's waist. And thank you, Elise, for all your work making this happen. Elise nodded, then turned to Vanessa with a slightly softer expression than before. You handled yourself well tonight. Not everyone could. Coming from Elise, it felt like high praise. Later, in the taxi home, Vanessa leaned against Aidan's shoulder. For your mother is wonderful. She likes you, he said, kissing the top of her head. I could tell. How? She gave you her real smile, not her polite one. He chuckled. And she didn't once mention my cousin Barbara's daughter, who's such a lovely girl and still single. Vanessa laughed, then grew serious. Thank you for bringing me tonight, for including me in this part of your life. Thank you for being there, he said simply. It means more than you know. The following weekend, Vanessa invited her friends over for dinner at her apartment. Rachel, her co-worker Sam, and Sam's husband Mike gathered around her small dining table. which she'd carefully set with new dishes and flowers from the market. "Someone's becoming domestic," Rachel teased, helping to serve the pasta dish Vanessa had prepared, under Aiden's guidance the night before. "Just trying something new," Vanessa replied with a smile. "Aiden's been teaching me a few things." "Speaking of the chef," Sam said, "when do we get to meet this man who's put that glow in your cheeks?" "He's coming for dessert," Vanessa admitted. "I had to work the dinner service at the restaurant, but he's bringing something special after." "Oh, it's serious," Rachel said, wiggling her eyebrows. "Meeting the friends is a big step." "We've been dating for 3 months," Vanessa pointed out. "It's not that big a deal." But it was, and she knew it. After the charity auction, something had shifted between them. Their relationship felt more solid, more real. Aiden had begun leaving things at her apartment: a toothbrush, a change of clothes, his favorite coffee, small markers of belonging. When the doorbell rang an hour later, Vanessa felt a flutter of nerves. Her worlds were about to collide, her old friends and the new man in her life. Aiden stood at the door with a bakery box and a bouquet of spring flowers. "For the hostess," he said, handing her the flowers with a quick kiss. The introductions went smoothly. Aiden charmed her friends with stories from the restaurant and his genuine interest in their lives. He fit seamlessly into their group, as if he'd always been part of it. "So, Aiden," Mike said as they enjoyed the tiramisu Aiden had brought, "Vanessa tells us you own the Silver Spoon. That place is impossible to get into. We tried for our anniversary last year. Next time, just mention you're friends with Vanessa," Aiden said. "We'll always find a table for you." "The perks of dating the boss," Rachel laughed. "I'd say the boss is getting the better end of the deal," Aiden replied, his eyes on Vanessa with such warmth that she blushed. Later, after her friends had left, they cleaned up together, moving around her small kitchen in comfortable synchrony. "Your friends are great," Aiden said, drying the last wineglass. "Especially Rachel. She grilled me thoroughly when you were in the bathroom." Vanessa groaned. What did she ask? "My intentions, my 5-year plan, whether I snore." He grinned. "Standard best friend interrogation. And what did you tell her?" He set down the towel and pulled Vanessa into his arms. "That my intentions are honorable, that my 5-year plan definitely includes you, and that you'd have to tell her about the snoring." I'll need more data on that last one," she teased, looping her arms around his neck. His expression grew more serious. "I meant what I said about the 5-year plan, Vanessa. I know we haven't been together long, but I want you to know I'm all in. Whatever comes next, I want it to be with you." The words sent a wave of emotion through her. After David's indifference, after months of feeling invisible, here was a man who saw her completely and chose her anyway. "I'm all in too," she whispered. Later that night, lying in her bed with Aiden's arm around her, Vanessa felt a contentment she hadn't known was possible. They weren't perfect, both still carrying scars from their pasts, but they were building something real together, something that felt like home. But even as she drifted towards sleep, a small worry niggled at the back of her mind. Was this happiness? Too new, too fragile to last. What would happen when real life intruded on their carefully constructed bubble of two? She didn't have to wait long to find out. The trouble began on a Tuesday morning in June. Vanessa was at her desk at Henderson, marketing, when Linda stopped by with a strange expression. "Have you seen this?" she asked, placing a copy of the City Times on Vanessa's desk. Vanessa looked down at the lifestyle section and felt her stomach drop. There, on the society page, was a photo of her and Aiden at the charity wine auction. The headline read, "Silver Spoon owner finds new love 3 years after tragedy." The article was short but pointed, detailing how Aiden Cole, still mourning beloved wife Claire, had been seen with new girlfriend Vanessa Holt at the charity event Claire had founded. It mentioned how Aiden had rebuilt his life and Claire's restaurant and was finally moving on. "I didn't know his wife died," Linda said gently. "That must be complicated." "It's not," Vanessa began, then stopped. How could she explain the nuances of their relationship to someone who didn't know them? It's not what this makes it sound like. Throughout the day, she received curious looks from co-workers and even a few texts from acquaintances she hadn't heard from in months. "Saw you in the paper. Dating a restaurant owner. Fancy." Isn't that the guy from the Silver Spoon? How did you meet him? By lunchtime, Vanessa had turned off her phone notifications. She texted Aiden, "Have you seen the article?" His response was immediate. "Just did. I'm so sorry. Gloria Chen strikes again. Can I see you tonight?" They met at her apartment after work. Aiden looked tired, his usual calm demeanor strained. "Marco's handling dinner service," he explained as he followed her inside. "I needed to see you." "How bad is it?" she asked, hanging up her coat. "The restaurant phone has been ringing all day with people trying to get reservations. Apparently dating after widowhood makes me interesting." His attempt at humor fell flat. Elise called. "She's not happy about the 3 years part, says it makes it sound like I forgot Claire too quickly." "It hasn't even been 3 years, Vanessa pointed out, remembering Aiden had told her Claire died 4 years ago. "Exactly. Gloria got that wrong along with most other details." He sighed, running a hand through his hair. "I'm used to this kind of thing. Restaurant owners get gossiped about, but I hate that they dragged you into it." "I can handle a little gossip," Vanessa said, though the article had shaken her more than she wanted to admit. Seeing their relationship reduced to a cliché, the widower moving on with the new woman, made her question everything they'd built. "There's something else," Aiden said, pulling out his phone. "David called the restaurant." "David? My David?" Vanessa felt cold all over. "Why would he call you?" "He said he saw the article. Wanted to talk to me about you." Aiden's expression darkened. "I didn't take the call, but he left a message claiming he wants to warn me about something." Vanessa sank onto the couch, her legs suddenly weak. After nearly 6 months of silence, why would her ex-husband suddenly want to contact her new boyfriend? "Whatever he might say, it doesn't matter," Aiden said, sitting beside her. "I know you." "Do you?" she asked quietly. "We've only been together a few months. There's a lot about my marriage, about me, that you don't know." "Then tell me," he said simply. So she did. About how she'd been so desperate to make her marriage work that she'd lost herself trying to please a man who barely noticed. How she'd quit her promising career to be a supportive wife when David got a promotion. How she'd convinced herself that his indifference was her fault, that if she just tried harder, he'd see her again. "By the end, I was like a ghost in my own life," she admitted, tears threatening. "I wore what he liked, cooked what he wanted, never complained, and he still looked through me like I wasn't there." Aiden took her hand. "That's not love, Vanessa. That's erasure." "I know that now, but it took me years to walk away." She wiped at her eyes. "What if David tells you I'm clingy or desperate, or that I'm the reason our marriage failed? Then he'd be proving he never really knew you at all," Aiden said firmly. "Because the woman I know is strong, independent, and brave as hell." His confidence in her was like a warm light cutting through fog, but before she could respond, Aiden's phone rang. "The restaurant?" "I have to take this," he apologized, stepping into the kitchen to answer. Vanessa could hear the tension in his voice as he spoke with Marco about some crisis at the Silver Spoon. When he returned, his expression was grim. "I have to go. The health inspector showed up unexpectedly. Marco says everything's fine, but I need to be there." "Of course," Vanessa said, trying to hide her disappointment. "Will you call me later?" "As soon as I can," he promised, kissing her quickly before leaving. Alone in her apartment, Vanessa felt the weight of the day pressing down on her. The article, David's call, the reminder of how public Aiden's life was, and now, by extension, hers. Was she ready for that? To be seen not just by him, but by everyone who knew him, everyone who had loved Claire. Her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Saw you've moved on? We should talk. Coffee tomorrow?" "David." Vanessa stared at the message, her heart racing. After all this time, why now? Was it really just the article or something more? She didn't respond. The next morning, another text from David. "I'll be at Café Luna at 1 p.m. Please come, Vanessa. It's important." All morning at work, she debated what to do. Ignore him, tell Aiden, go and hear what David had to say. In the end, curiosity won out. She hadn't heard from Aiden since his hurried departure the night before. Just a brief text saying the health inspector had found minor violations that needed immediate attention, and he'd be busy all day fixing them. At 1:15, Vanessa walked into Café Luna. David was already there, looking much as he had when she left him, handsome in a cold way, his expression perpetually distracted. He stood when he saw her. "You came," he said, as if surprised. "What do you want, David?" she asked, not sitting down. "Please." He gestured to the empty chair. "Just 5 minutes." Reluctantly, she sat. A server brought coffee she hadn't ordered. "I got your usual," David said. "Vanilla latte, extra hot." The fact that he remembered her coffee order when he'd forgotten so many important things irritated her. "Why did you call Aiden?" David had the grace to look embarrassed. "I saw the article. It was surprising to see you with someone like him." "Someone successful? Someone who actually sees me?" The words came out sharper than intended. "Someone so recently widowed," David corrected. "I was worried you might be getting into something complicated." Vanessa almost laughed. "That's rich coming from you, and it's none of your business who I date." "You're right," he admitted, running a finger around the rim of his coffee cup. I've been thinking about us lately, about what went wrong." "Don't," Vanessa said firmly. "We're not doing this, David. Whatever self-reflection you've been having, I'm not interested." "I made mistakes," he pressed on. "I took you for granted. I see that now. 6 months ago, those words would have meant everything. To her. Now they fell flat." "Why are you really here?" she asked. David sighed. "Honestly, I miss you. When I saw that article, it hit me that you've moved on. Really moved on." "What did you expect?" Vanessa asked incredulously. "That I'd just be waiting for you to notice me again." "No, but—" He reached for her hand across the table, but she pulled back. "I thought maybe we could try again. Do better this time." Vanessa stood up. "No, David. There is no again for us. I've built a new life, one where I'm valued, not just tolerated, by a guy who's clearly still in love with his dead wife." David scoffed. "That restaurant was hers. The article said he renamed it after she died. How do you know you're not just a convenient replacement?" The words hit exactly where her own insecurities lived, but Vanessa refused to let David see that. "You don't know anything about Aiden or about us," she said coldly. "Goodbye, David." She walked out, her heart pounding. Outside, she took deep breaths of the summer air, trying to calm herself. She wouldn't let David get to her. She wouldn't... "Vanessa!" She turned to see Elise standing a few feet away, her expression unreadable. "Elise, what are you doing here?" "I work across the street," Elise said, gesturing to an office building. "Was that your ex-husband? How did you—" "I recognize him from the photo in your apartment," Elise explained. "The one you keep face down in your drawer." Vanessa flushed. She'd forgotten Elise had used her bathroom once when stopping by to drop off auction paperwork. "Yes, that was David," she admitted. "He wanted to talk." "About Aiden?" Elise guessed shrewdly. "Among other things." Elise studied her for a moment, then seemed to come to a decision. "Let me buy you a proper coffee. Not at that place." She nodded toward a small bistro down the block. "I think we should talk." Curious and still rattled from her encounter with David, Vanessa agreed. Once they were seated with fresh coffee, Elise got straight to the point. "I owe you an apology," she said. "I haven't been very welcoming." "You were Claire's best friend," Vanessa said. "I understand your loyalty to her. It's not just that." Elise stirred her coffee thoughtfully. "When Claire was sick, she made me promise to look after Aiden, make sure he'd be okay. For 2 years after she died, he was just existing, running the restaurant, going through motions. Then suddenly there was you." "And you thought I was taking advantage somehow?" Vanessa asked. "I thought you might be a distraction, something easy to make him feel better temporarily." Elise met her eyes directly. "I was wrong." The admission surprised Vanessa. "What changed your mind?" "The way he looks at you," Elise said simply. "I've known Aiden for 10 years. I've never seen him look at anyone the way he looks at you. Not even Claire." Vanessa felt her breath catch. "What do you mean?" "With Claire, there was always this protectiveness. even before she got sick. She was brilliant but fragile in some ways. Aiden was her rock. Elise smiled slightly. With you, he's different, more at ease, like he can finally breathe fully. The insight into Aiden's previous relationship touched Vanessa deeply. She'd never thought about how his dynamic with Claire might have been different from what they shared. I didn't tell you this to upset you, Elise continued. I told you because I saw you talking to your ex, and I recognized that look. He was trying to make you doubt what you have with Aiden. How did you know? Because that's what exes do, Elise said with a wry smile, especially when they realize someone else values what they threw away. By the time they parted, something had shifted between them. Not quite friendship, but a mutual understanding. Elise had known Claire better than anyone. If she believed what Vanessa and Aiden had was real, different from, but no less significant than what he'd had with Claire, maybe it was time for Vanessa to believe it too. Vanessa tried calling Aiden that evening but got his voicemail. Her text went unanswered as well. Worry began to gnaw at her. Had something happened at the restaurant, or worse, had David somehow reached him? The next morning, still with no word from Aiden, she decided to go to the Silver Spoon directly. It was early, hours before they opened for lunch, but she knew he would be there. The restaurant was quiet when she arrived, just the cleaning staff and a few kitchen workers preparing for the day. Marco spotted her first. Ms. Holt, he greeted her with his usual warmth, though he looked tired. You're here early. I'm looking for Aiden, she said. I haven't been able to reach him. Something flickered across Marco's face. Concern. He's upstairs. We had a difficult night. What happened? Marco hesitated. Perhaps it's better if he tells you. Vanessa headed for the private staircase that led to Aiden's apartment. She knocked firmly on the door. After a long moment, Aiden opened. He looked exhausted, with shadows under his eyes and yesterday's clothes rumpled as if he'd slept in them. When he saw her, surprise and something like relief crossed his face. Vanessa, I was going to call you later. What's going on? She asked, stepping inside when he moved back. Marco said you had a difficult night? Aiden ran a hand through his hair. The health inspector. Turns out it wasn't routine. Someone filed a complaint. What kind of complaint? Food safety violations. All. False, of course, but we had to shut down last night to address them anyway. He sank onto his couch. We lost an entire night of business, and the timing couldn't be worse. Why? Because... He broke off, looking away. We were already having cash flow issues. Nothing serious, just the usual restaurant business cycles. But with that article, bringing in more customers, we were finally turning a corner. Now this. Vanessa sat beside him. Do you know who filed the complaint? Aiden's expression hardened. The inspector wouldn't say officially, but he hinted it was someone claiming to be a concerned former customer. A cold feeling spread through Vanessa. David, she whispered. Aiden looked at her sharply. What? I saw David yesterday, she admitted. He wanted to talk, tried to convince me to get back together with him. And you didn't tell me? Aiden asked, his voice carefully controlled. I tried calling you last night, but you didn't answer. She took a deep breath. Trying to hurt me. By targeting what matters to you, Aiden concluded, which now includes me. And my restaurant? You think he called in the fake complaint? The timing is suspicious. Aiden stood and began pacing. If he did, he's messing with people's livelihoods. My staff depends on this place. Vanessa felt sick. I'm so sorry. This is my fault. How is it your fault that your ex is vindictive? If I hadn't gone to meet him... Stop, Aiden said firmly. You're not responsible for his actions. They were interrupted by Aiden's phone ringing. He answered, his expression growing more concerned as he listened. I'll be right down, he said, ending the call. The produce delivery is wrong and Marco needs help sorting it out before lunch service. Go, Vanessa said. Do what you need to do. He paused at the door. We'll talk more later? Dinner at your place? Of course. After he left, Vanessa wandered to the window overlooking the street. The restaurant below was Aiden's life's work, both his and Claire's legacy. The thought that David might have tried to damage it out of spite toward her was unbearable. Her gaze fell on the framed photo of Claire on the shelf, the bright smile, the determined eyes. What would she think of all this? Of Aidan now? Of Vanessa? On impulse, Vanessa picked up her phone and called Rachel. "I need your help with something," she said when her friend answered, "and it might be a little sneaky." That evening, Vanessa had everything ready when Aidan arrived at her apartment. The table was set, candles lit, and a bottle of his favorite wine was breathing. "This looks amazing," he said, kissing her hello. "But you didn't have to go to all this trouble. I would have been happy with takeout after the day I've had." "Sit," she instructed, taking his coat. "Wine first, then we talk." He raised an eyebrow but complied, accepting the glass she poured him. "You seem determined." "I am," she said, sitting across from him. "I have something to tell you." Aidan's expression grew wary. "That sounds ominous." "It's not, I promise." Vanessa took a deep breath. "I called in a favor today. Rachel's brother is a lawyer. He helped me draft a cease and desist letter to David." "A what?" "A legal letter warning him that if he continues to interfere with your business or contact, either of us will pursue legal action." She pulled out a copy of the letter. "It mentions the suspicious timing of the health inspection complaint and makes it clear that any further actions will be documented and addressed legally." Aidan looked at the letter, then at her with amazement. "You did this today?" "I also called the health department," she continued. "I explained the situation, that a vindictive ex might have filed a false complaint. They can't reverse the inspection, but they noted it in your file and agreed to expedite the follow-up." "Vanessa, and I spoke with Marco," she pressed on. "He thinks we should turn this whole thing around. Use the publicity from that stupid article to our advantage. Host a special dinner event, maybe something that honors Claire's original vision while showcasing the restaurant's evolution. Make it clear that the silver spoon is stronger than ever." Aidan was staring at her, his expression unreadable. "I'm sorry if I overstepped," she said quickly. "I just couldn't stand the thought of David hurting you because of me." "Overstepped?" Aidan set down his wine glass. "Vanessa, this is incredible. You took on all of this to protect the restaurant." "To protect you," she corrected. "The restaurant is part of you. I wasn't going to let David damage something so important." Aidan moved around the table and pulled her to her feet, into his arms. "Do you have any idea how much I love you?" The words hung in the air between them, the first time either had said it aloud. "You love me?" Vanessa whispered. "Completely," he said, his eyes never leaving hers. "I think I have since that first night you walked into the restaurant and decided not to let painful memories win." "I love you too," she said, the words coming easily, naturally. "Even with all the complications, even with the ghosts that sometimes sit at our table." He smiled at her reference. "Those ghosts are getting quieter all the time." Their dinner grew cold as they talked, really talked, about everything. David's attempt to undermine them, the article, their future. "I've been thinking," Aidan said as they finally sat down to eat the reheated food, "about the restaurant." "What about it?" "It's time for some changes, not just the menu or the decor, something more fundamental." "Like what?" Vanessa asked, curious. "About his sudden decisiveness. Like a partner," he said, watching her reaction carefully. "Someone with fresh ideas, someone who sees people the way I try to see food, as full of potential and worth paying attention to." "Are you offering me a job?" Vanessa asked, confused. "No," he laughed. "I'm offering you a place at the table, officially. If you want it." "I don't know anything about running a restaurant," she protested. "But you know about people, about making them feel welcome and seen." He took her hand. "The food brings them in, but it's the experience that brings them back. You understand that better than anyone." The offer touched her deeply, not because she particularly wanted to work in a restaurant, but because it represented Aidan truly integrating her into his life, his whole life, including the legacy he and Claire had built. "I'll think about it," she promised, "but right now I'm pretty happy with my marketing job." "Fair enough," he said with a smile. "The offer stays open." 3 weeks later, the Silver Spoon hosted a special event. New Beginnings. The menu featured Claire's original signature dishes alongside new creations developed by Marco and Aidan. The restaurant was packed, with Gloria Chen herself in attendance, working on a follow-up piece that Aidan had negotiated, this time controlling the narrative. Vanessa greeted guests at the door, perfectly at ease in a role she'd grown into naturally. Not as an employee, but as the woman in Aidan's life who had found her own place in the restaurant story of important critics. Reminds me of myself when my husband and I ran our little pizzeria. I'm just helping out, Vanessa demurred. Margaret hummed knowingly. That's how it starts. From across the room, Vanessa caught Aidan's eye. He was speaking with Elise near the bar, but his gaze kept finding Vanessa, as if he couldn't help himself. The look they shared was warm, private, a silent affirmation of everything they'd built. Later, after the last guests had departed and the staff was cleaning up, Aidan found Vanessa sitting at the small table in the kitchen alcove, the chef's table where he'd first truly opened up to her. Exhausted? He asked, sliding into the seat across from her. In the best way, she admitted. It was a perfect night. Almost perfect, he said mysteriously. There's one more thing. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small box, setting it on the table between them. Not a ring box, but something larger. What's this? She asked. Open it. Inside was a key nestled on a bed of velvet. I already have a key to your apartment, she said, confused. It's not to my apartment, Aidan explained. It's to this place, the restaurant. But you already gave me one of those too, she reminded him. For emergencies. This is different. He took a deep breath. This is me asking you to move in with me, not just into my apartment, but into this whole life. The early mornings, the late nights, the chaos and the calm. Vanessa felt tears welling up. Aidan, you don't have to answer now, he said quickly. I know it's a lot, especially with the restaurant being so tied to Claire's memory. But I want you to know that this place, my home, my work, my heart, there's room for you in all of it. There has been since the night you walked in and almost walked right back out again. Vanessa closed her hand around the key, feeling its weight, the promise it represented. I don't need to think about it, she said softly. My answer is yes. His smile was like sunrise. Really? Really. She reached across the table to take his hand. But I have one condition. Name it. The chef's table, she said, gesturing to where they sat. This stays our special place. No matter how busy we get, no matter what changes come, we make time to sit here together. Deal, he agreed immediately. I was thinking we could rename it. Oh, Vanessa's table, he suggested. Since it's where you first started to feel at home here. The thoughtfulness of the gesture touched her deeply. I have a better idea. Let's call it Table for Two. Perfect, he said, lifting her hand to his lips. Because that's exactly what we are now. No longer eating alone with our ghosts, just us, together. 6 months later, on a crisp autumn evening, Vanessa stood at the bar of the Silver Spoon, watching as the restaurant hummed with life around her. Regular customers greeted her by name now. Staff sought her opinion on the new dessert menu. She had found her place here, not as an employee, but as part of the heart of the establishment. Her phone buzzed with a text from Rachel. How's the new promotion? Marketing director looks good on you. Vanessa smiled as she typed back. Loving. It dinner soon to celebrate? Her career at Henderson had flourished, even as she found time to be part of Aidan's world too. They had found a balance that worked for both of them. Separate professional lives, but a shared personal one. There you are, Aidan said, appearing at her side. He wore his usual work clothes, dark pants and a button-down with the sleeves rolled up, but had added a tie for tonight's special occasion. Ready? Vanessa nodded, smoothing down her dress nervously. Tonight was the official relaunch of the restaurant's website and social media presence, a project she had spearheaded in her free time, combining her marketing skills with her growing knowledge of the restaurant business. Aidan called for attention and the bustling dining room quieted. Thank you all for being here tonight, he began, his arm around Vanessa's waist. Many of you have been coming to this restaurant since it was Claire's, and you've stayed with us through all the changes. Tonight, we're celebrating another evolution, a new digital presence that better reflects who we are now. He turned to Vanessa with pride in his eyes. And none of it would have been possible without this incredible woman who walked into my restaurant and my life at exactly the right moment. Applause filled the room. Vanessa felt a blush rising in her cheeks but stood tall, accepting the acknowledgement. After years of being invisible in her marriage, the feeling of being truly seen, not just by Aidan but by this whole community they'd built together, was still sometimes overwhelming. Later, as the party wound down, they found themselves at their special table, officially renamed Table for Two with a small plaque. Marco had prepared a late supper just for them, a tradition they maintained at least once a week. "Happy?" Aidan asked, refilling her wine glass. "Very," she said honestly. "Though I still can't believe Elise volunteered to manage our social media accounts. People can surprise you," he said with a smile, sometimes in good ways. They ate in companionable silence for a moment, enjoying Marco's perfect risotto. "I got a card from David today," Vanessa said suddenly. Aidan looked up, surprised. "What? Did it say?" "Just congratulations on the promotion, and that he's moved to Chicago." She shrugged. "I think it was his way of saying he's moving on too." "Good for him," Aidan said simply. "And better for us." The restaurant was empty now, except for a few staff cleaning up. Through the windows, the city glowed with evening lights. Vanessa thought about how far she'd come from that first night she'd walked in alone, ready to flee at the sight of a corner booth that reminded her of painful memories. "What are you thinking about?" Aidan asked, noting her thoughtful expression. "About how sometimes the worst moments lead to the best beginnings," she said. "If David hadn't made me feel invisible, I might never have left. If I hadn't left, I would never have walked into this restaurant that night, never have met you. And I would still be here going through the motions," Aidan added, "running a restaurant that reminded me of what I'd lost instead of what I could find." He reached into his pocket and pulled out another small box, smaller than the one that had held the key. "I was going to wait until our anniversary next month," he said, his voice suddenly nervous. "But sitting here just us feels right." Vanessa's heart began to race as he opened the box to reveal a ring, elegant and understated, with a single diamond that caught the soft light. "This isn't Claire's," he said quickly, as if wanting to make that clear immediately. "This is new, like us." "Aidan," she whispered, tears filling her eyes. "Vanessa Holt, you walked into this restaurant looking for a quiet meal, and you found me instead, still learning how to live again. You never tried to replace what I'd lost. You just created something new beside it." He took her hand. "Will you marry me? Be my partner in this restaurant, in this life, in whatever comes next?" "Yes," she said without hesitation. "Absolutely yes." As he slipped the ring onto her finger, Vanessa thought about her promise to herself the day she left David. "I won't be forgotten again." She hadn't been. Aidan saw her, completely, honestly, lovingly, and she saw him too, not as a tragic figure or a successful restaurant owner, but as the man who had offered to help her create new memories when the old ones hurt too much. Together, they had turned a table for one into a place for two. A place where they could build a future that honored the past without being trapped by it. A place where they were both finally, completely seen. "To new beginnings," Aidan said, raising his glass.